So, it's February 22nd, 2026,
Yeah.
and you're standing in a front yard.
Just standing there.
Right, just standing there. It's quiet. There's no crime scene tape or sirens. Just a guy looking at a plant.
Coleus, to be exact.
Yeah, Coleus. And usually these things are, well, they're loud, visually loud. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Bright neon yellows, deep purples.
vibrant greens. They are like the extroverts of the plant world.
Yeah.
But this one, this specific one has gone mute.
Completely flat.
It's just turned this boring uniform green.
Yeah.
Now, for like 99% of the population, the reaction here is just, oh, like kill another one.
Or I guess I need to water it, and then, they walk away.
You never think about it again. But today, in this deep dive, we aren't looking at most people.
No, we are not.
We're looking at a source that takes this mundane moment, this plant changing color, and treats it like a critical system failure.
Like a bug in enterprise software.
Exactly. So we're diving into the mind of a blogger named Ang, specifically from his site, qianmeng.org. And what we have in front of us is a post titled Notes on Gardening, Part 815.
Part 815.
I really want to flag that number right away because that is a staggering amount of data.
Yeah.
I mean, who writes 815 distinct notes on gardening?
And that's just the gardening tag.
Right.
When you look at the wider context of this site, you realize we aren't just reading about horticulture here. Ang describes himself as an old software plumber.
Software plumber.
Yeah, and that bio is the key to everything we're about to discuss today. He's looking at his garden, but he's actually seeing code. He's seeing a runtime environment.
So our mission today is really twofold. First, we're going to solve the case of the reverting Coleus using Ang's method, which is genuinely fascinating.
It really is.
But secondly, and I think more importantly, we're going to look at how this software plumber mindset, this relentless documentation, can change how you interact with reality.
It's essentially a masterclass in observability. How do you monitor the system of your own life? How do you read your own logs?
So let's start with the bug report. The case of the reverting Coleus. Set the scene for us. What is the expected behavior of this plant versus the actual behavior?
Okay, so the expected behavior is variegation. You buy a Coleus because it has these wild patterns.
Right.
In this specific case, the leaves are supposed to be a mix of vibrant yellow and green, and that yellow is actually a lack of chlorophyll in specific areas.
So it's a feature, not a bug.
Biologically, it's actually a mutation, but aesthetically, yes, it's a feature. The bug in this scenario is that Ang moved the plant.
He redeployed it.
He took it from its original spot and deployed it to a different microclimate in his front yard.
And the deployment failed.
Basically, yeah. The yellow started disappearing. The leaves began reverting to a solid, efficient green.
Oh.
The feature was completely stripped out in the new environment.
Now, Ang's reaction to this is what caught my eye immediately. He doesn't get frustrated.
Yeah.
He doesn't blame the plant. He writes this incredible line. He says, "While every gardener dreams of seeing their plants reach their full potential, I find that I most cherish the biological discoveries I make along the way."
That reframes the entire exercise.
Totally.
He's not trying to force the plant to submit. He's trying to understand the logic flow.
Yes.
If you're a developer, you know this feeling. You don't just want the code to work. You want to know why it works.
Right, because if it fixes itself magically, that's actually super annoying. You want the root cause.
Exactly, want the root cause.
Because if you don't know why it fixed itself, you can't replicate it. It's just magic code.
Yep.
So he opens a ticket, he starts the debugging process, and he doesn't guess. He uses a process of elimination that is just incredibly rigorous.
It's highly systematic. He isolates the variables one by one. If you have a server outage, you check power, you check network, you check the logs. Here he has a plant losing color. What are the variables?
Well, variable one is the obvious one, light.
Right. This is the go-to Stack Overflow answer for plants.
Right.
If a variegated plant turns green, it's usually because it's in the shade. The plant thinks, I'm starving for energy. I need to maximize photosynthesis.
So it pumps out more chlorophyll.
Yes. It turns green to survive.
Which is a really solid hypothesis.
Yeah.
He moved the plant. Maybe the new spot is too dark. It's like a solar panel trying to find the sun.
But Ang rejects this. And look at how he rejects it. He doesn't just look at the sun and take a wild guess. He looks at the data set.
Oh, right. He looks around.
He compares the buggy plant to the other instances running in the exact same environment.
He notes there are nearby cultivars, so other Coleus plants, in the exact same front yard spot.
And they aren't losing their color.
Right.
This is comparative analysis. If the server rack lost power, all the servers would go down. If only one server goes down, it's not the power supply.
Makes sense.
The other plants are thriving, displaying full color. So the environment, specifically light availability, is totally ruled out.
Okay, so variable 1, light, is resolved.
Yeah.
Not the issue. Let's look at variable 2, nutrition. Specifically nitrogen.
Now, this is a bit more technical. Nitrogen is the fuel for leafy growth.
Okay.
It promotes chlorophyll production. If you pump a plant full of nitrogen, it goes into absolute overdrive producing green leaves.
And it loses the colors.
Often, yes, at the expense of those delicate variegated colors.
It's like overclocking the CPU.
Yeah.
You get raw speed, the green growth,
Right.
but you lose the stability of the nuanced colors.
Or like giving a kid way too much sugar.
Yeah, exactly. So the question is, did he over-fertilize? Did he introduce a user error? Push a bad config update?
And he checks his logs. He writes, quote, "I haven't fertilized them in months."
Which is interesting in itself. He knows the input history of the system.
He can confidently say there was no nitrogen spike because he controls the inputs. So variable 2 is eliminated.
All right, variable 3, environmental stress. Heat.
He moved the plant. So maybe the new spot is heat trap. Maybe there's a vent blowing hot air on it.
But he notes the microclimate remains stable. And again, this implies he's constantly monitoring it. He knows the temperature fluctuations in his front yard well enough to know there hasn't been a spike that would cause a stress reaction.
It's just incredible confidence in his baseline data. He literally has a mental dashboard of his front yard's metrics.
Okay, variable 4, life cycle. Is a plant just old? Is it trying to flower?
Flowering is a huge energy drain. When a Coleus starts to bloom, it often stops caring about its leaves.
It just wants to reproduce.
Exactly. It puts all its resources into reproduction. The code branches off into a flower subroutine.
But Aang notes, no blooms in sight.
So we've ruled out light, food, heat, and age. We have eliminated all the external factors.
Which brings us to the Sherlock Holmes moment. When you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. What is the verdict?
Genetic reversion.
Genetic reversion. It sounds ominous, like a sci-fi movie title.
It really does, but it's actually quite fascinating. We touched on this earlier. The yellow and green pattern is a mutation.
Right.
It's unstable code. It's biologically expensive for the plant to maintain those yellow spots because they don't produce energy.
They're just decorative.
Decorative, not functional.
So the plant is essentially rolling back an update.
Precisely. It's doing a factory reset. The plant on a cellular level has realized, this fancy variegation isn't efficient. I'm going back to the stable release.
Back to green.
It reverts to the original all-green, high chlorophyll form.
The plant fixed its own bug.
From the plant's perspective, yes. It optimized its code for survival. But from the gardener's perspective, the feature broke.
So diagnosis complete. Genetic reversion. Now, most people would stop there. Maybe throw the plant out, buy a new one. But Aang is a tinkerer. He proposes a patch.
He does. He says, moving forward, I plan to experiment with strategic pruning and a light fertilizing schedule to see if I can coax the variegated growth to return.
He's trying to force the mutation back. He's literally hacking the plant.
He's trying to create the conditions where the plant chooses the instability again. And notice the tone here. He ends the post by saying, regardless of the outcome, it remains a truly intriguing observation.
That's that software plumber ethos again. The result matters less than the understanding. If the plant stays green, he learned about reversion. If it turns yellow, he learned about pruning. He wins either way because the goal is data.
And that brings us to the bigger picture here. Because if we just focus on the Coleus, we miss the forest for the trees. Or the garden for the, well, you get it.
Right, we need to talk about the sidebar.
The sidebar. This is where the story went from, oh, interesting gardening tip to, wait a minute, for me.
Listeners, I want you to visualize a blog sidebar with an archive list. Usually on a personal blog, you see January 3 posts, February 2 posts.
Maybe they miss a month here and there.
Right. A casual hobbyist pace. You write when you feel inspired. Let's look at Aang's stats. The source material lists his archives. In 2025, the full year prior to this post, how many posts did he publish?
730.
730.
That is exactly 2 posts per day. Every single day. No holidays, no sick days, no I'm too tired days.
And 2024.
732.
And 2023.
730.
This is machine-like consistency. We are recording this in late February 2026. What's the count for this month so far?
As of the 22nd, he has posted 66 times.
Wow.
He's actually accelerating. He's pacing above 2 a day.
This completely recontextualizes everything we just discussed about the Coleus. This isn't just a guy who noticed a plant one afternoon. This is a guy who has built a high-frequency data capture system for his entire life.
It's the data lake concept. He's dumping everything into the repository. If you scroll through the tags, the categories of these notes, it's dizzying.
It's not just notes on gardening. I'm looking at the list here. We have notes on Haskell programming. He's up to part 64 on that. Notes on genomic application development. Notes on networking.
So the tech stuff tracks perfectly. He's a software plumber. But then you see notes on fish keeping.
Part 201.
Notes on photography, part 229. Notes on guitar, notes on meditation.
Even notes on dieting and home improvement.
He doesn't compartmentalize. And I think that is the profound insight here. Most of us have work brain and home brain. At work, we document, we debug, we follow strict procedures. Then we come home and we just exist. We turn the logging off.
Right. If my code breaks at work, I do a postmortem. I write a report. If my bread fails to rise at home, I just eat bad bread and complain to my spouse.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't analyze it.
But Ang doesn't do that. He applies the exact same rigorous notes-on framework to his fish tank as he does to his Haskell code. Notes on fish keeping part 201 means he has troubleshooted his aquarium 201 times.
And that explains why he was able to diagnose the Coleus so quickly. He has trained his brain to see patterns everywhere. The genetic reversion conclusion wasn't a guess. It was the output of a trained neural net.
Exactly. He's running the same algorithm on reality that he runs on his servers. Observe, hypothesize, test, document, repeat.
He's cross-pollinating his skills.
He is. The logic he uses to debug a server helps him debug a plant, and the patience he learns from the plant probably makes him a better programmer.
It's really interesting you mentioned document, because that seems to be the linchpin of this whole thing. If you didn't write it down, would it matter?
I don't think so. There's a saying in open source software, if it isn't documented, it doesn't exist.
And looking at his footer, he explicitly aligns himself with that culture. Journal of an old software plumber, night long, tinkering with free Libre and open source software.
He's open sourcing his life. Think about what that really means. When you write code, you leave comments so that the future you knows why you wrote it that way.
Right.
Ang is writing comments for his future self about his garden, his diet, his guitar playing.
He's building a personal knowledge base. So when he encounters a problem in 2028, he can just query his own database from 2026.
And the compound interest on that is insane. If you learn one small thing about light levels today and one small thing about guitar chords tomorrow, and you actually retain it because you wrote it down.
After 815 notes.
You aren't just a hobbyist anymore, you're an expert.
It's like the 10,000 hours rule, but he's measuring it in blog posts.
And notice the format, too. He calls them notes, not essays, not articles.
That's a crucial distinction.
If he tried to write a definitive guide to Coleus care, he'd never finish. It's too much pressure. But a note, you can write a note in 5 minutes.
Observed leaf color change. Checked nitrogen. Seems okay. We'll monitor. Done.
Exactly. Publish.
It lowers the barrier to entry. It makes the consistency possible.
It's the minimum viable commit. He's pushing small updates to the repository of his life multiple times a day.
I want to go back to the titles of his other posts. We mentioned the Coleus one, but there are others that hint at this mindset. The irony of the deceptive beauty. Rediscovering mealybugs.
Rediscovering mealybugs. I love that one.
It implies he's seen them before.
It implies a cycle. He's not shocked by the bugs. He recognizes the pattern. Ah, the code is executing the mealybug subroutine again.
Oh.
It takes the emotion out of it. It's not a disaster, it's just a recurrence.
That emotional distance, that objectivity seems really healthy.
It is healthy. It turns life into a laboratory. In a lab, there are no bad results. There are just results.
Right.
A reverted Coleus is a data point. A server crash is a lesson in redundancy. A failed sourdough loaf is a lesson in yeast activity.
It takes all the pressure off perfection. You don't have to be a perfect gardener. You just have to be a diligent observer.
Cherish the biological discoveries. That's the mantra.
So let's bring this down to earth for the listener. We've geeked out over the stats in the gardening, but what's the actionable takeaway here? Because I'm looking at this 730 posts a year stat and feeling honestly a little intimidated. I struggle to journal once a week.
Don't try to be Ang tomorrow. You don't need to spin up a server and install blogging software. You don't need to commit to 2 posts a day. But you can steal his debugger mindset immediately.
Look for the bugs.
Look for the bugs in your daily life. Things that aren't working as expected. Maybe your coffee tastes bitter every Tuesday. Maybe your car makes a weird noise when you turn left.
Maybe your team at work keeps missing the exact same deadline.
Don't just get mad at the coffee or the car. That's what the user does.
Right. Be the software plumber.
Isolate the variables. Is the grind size different? Is the water temperature different? Write it down.
Create notes on coffee part 1.
Exactly. Even if it's just in a notebook or a notes app on your phone, date Feb 22. Observation coffee bitter. Hypothesis beans are stale. Action, buy new beans.
And then the next day.
Yeah.
Part 2. Bought new beans. Coffee still bitter. Hypothesis. It's the machine.
Now you're debugging. You're
Shit.
systematically eliminating variables, and eventually you'll find the root cause, and you'll fix it, and that cup of coffee will taste like victory.
And you'll have a record of how you solved it. So if it happens again in 6 months, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
That's the key. You are building your own manual. You are writing the documentation for the operating system of you.
This really has been a surprising deep dive. We started with a plant losing its yellow spots, and we ended up with a philosophy for lifelong learning and system administration of the self.
That's the beauty of sources like this. Qianmeng.org looks like a simple tech blog, but it's actually a manifesto on how to pay attention. It's about being awake to the details.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought. We marveled at Ang's volume 730 posts a year. It seems impossible for a normal person.
It does. It sounds like a full-time job.
But think about how many text messages you send in a day. Think about how many Slack messages or emails or tweets. Think about the internal monologue you have while driving.
You are generating thousands of words a day.
You're already writing the data. You just aren't saving it. You aren't tagging it. You aren't reviewing it. It's ephemeral. It vanishes into the ether.
Ang is just capturing the stream. He's putting a bucket under the waterfall of his own consciousness.
So here's the question. If you started capturing just 1% of that stream, if you documented just 2 small observations about your world every day, what patterns would you start to see?
What biological discoveries are happening right under your nose that you're missing simply because you didn't write them down?
What is your notes on your life part 815 going to say?
That is a question worth answering.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Go find a bug in your life and cherish the discovery. We'll see you next time.